Fine, I'm also gonna give the stars. Oh my god, it's such good books in February because it's a race against time. It's delicious. Each read by Emily Henry. I don't know how to deal with it. Underwhelmed. I am recovering from a cold. It's a seasonal cold. If you watched the video where I'm making this room last year, I made it at the same time, like literally almost on the same dates, and I had a cold in that also. So clearly it is a seasonal thing, because of which I'm actually hearing myself a lot and I don't feel like you can hear me. So I will be yelling in the video. Please bear with it. Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're doing very nice. I'm sending a lot of hugs and positivity to all of you. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the 18 books that I have read in the past 2 months. So many of them are super duper hyped already. So many of them have become recently popular and some of them are really underrated. But the one common thing in all of these books is that they're all fresh recommendations for you. If you have been subscribed to the channel since like a really long time, you will know that I used to do monthly wrap-ups and then I stopped doing them for multiple reasons. I did not really enjoy doing it. It was getting a little repetitive. Also, one of the major reasons was because I just felt this pressure on my head to read a lot of books every month, because if I don't read a lot of books every month, this video is going to be pretty useless with like 3 recommendations. I also thought that the books that I reread or the books that I read slowly will not be counted as the books that I'm reading in the month, so I never included them. I was actually just really hard on myself. I don't want to be in that space anymore for myself. It is one of the goals for me this year, and I also want you guys to kind of become conscious of this, that reading slowly and taking the pleasure out of reading, or when you're reading non-fiction, learning from what you're reading is actually the goal, not like reading a lot of books. So yes, if you do read a lot of books, it does give you a sense of accomplishment. It does give me a sense of accomplishment, but that is not the main reason why I should read a lot of books. But then this year I was like, who cares if I read only a few books every month? I do know that I have a community that I can share all my feelings and emotions with around books. I get to recommend fresh books to you guys every single month, and fresh recommendations every single month can be so helpful for your TBR, and we can basically just have a lot of fun with these videos, which is why I am back with the monthly wrap-ups. I did not start in January, which is why this video will have 18 books. It's actually 19 books, but one of those books I'm still reading. I'm still gonna read it in March, so I'm not really counting. Oh, am I doing it again? Fine, it's actually 19 books. I also wanted to include a haul in these monthly wrap-ups, but I prefer doing a big haul with all of the books that I have got in the past 2-3 months, and a big haul is coming for you guys. I have bought quite a few books, and I also got a lot of gifts from friends and publishers, so a huge haul is coming for you guys. Now that all of that is out of the way, we can actually start with the video. And first of all, we have the month of January. If I talk about the mood of reading in January, I was extremely pumped in January because it's a new month. I took it extremely slow. I did mood reading, which is after the book, whichever book I felt like picking up, I picked it up. I was not very hard on myself. Plus, I also did not have a lot of books to choose from, which is why it was a very calm month. I did read like 10 books in January. I don't get how that happens, because when I used to rush like earlier, oh, I have to read a lot of books in the month, like when I used to make the wrap-ups, I used to read like 6 books a month or 5 books a month. Before that, when I did not make the wrap-up videos and I did not have this pressure, I used to read 12 books a month. This month, I did not put pressure on myself. I read 10 books this month. So clearly putting pressure on myself for reading, these are the books that you have to read, or these many books you have to read, is not working for me, which is why these videos also don't have a TBR. Like, I'm trying not to create a TBR because picking up books on the basis of my mood is working for me. The sequence of the books that I'm recommending is in the order in which I read them, not according to the stars personally that I gave them. Hey, should I start giving them stars in these videos? I mean, they are personal videos, so who cares, right? It'll become more personal, won't it? Fine, I'm also gonna give the stars. That's pretty exciting. But the books I'm recommending, they're not on the basis of the stars I've given them. It's not best to least best or best to worst. I don't want to use the word worst for books, so make sure that you're watching all the recommendations to get 5-star recommendations. First and foremost, we have the book Manifest by Roxy Nafusi. I really hope that's how you pronounce it. 7 Steps to Living Your Best Life. And I have recommended this book before after reading a couple of chapters, because I already knew it's going to be one of my favorites. But you guys, this is a 5-star read when it comes to manifestation, especially for beginners. I am not a beginner, and even then it was so good for me. I am used to reading books that dives deep into one aspect of manifestation. So for example, if you have The Secret, it is all about your faith and your belief. If you have Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza, it is all about quantum physics and the science of manifestation. And if you talk about The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy, that book is all about the psychology of manifestation. I like to dive deep into these concepts because it also gives me pleasure to have the knowledge of these things, not just like applying them in my own life, but when it comes to application in life, I don't think you need any other book except this, especially if you're a beginner. I actually bought this book because it was supposed to re-jog my memory, kind of like freshen things up for me when it comes to manifestation, but it clicked so hard. It just did not click for me earlier, but I read a few sentences in the book or few quotations or the chapters and it just clicked, and manifestation has never been so enjoyable for me before. First time you read it, I suggest you take it slow. I suggest you enjoy the book. I suggest you do the exercises in the book because they're the most practical exercises ever, and you are going to have everything you need as a beginner or even an avid manifester. Is manifested even a word? I don't know. That was a non-fiction book that I read every single day. So this is actually the first fiction book that I read in January, and it was actually a good note to start on. The first fiction book that I read and the second book of the month is A Horse Walks Into a Bar by David Grossman. It is the Man Booker International Prize of 2017. I saw this book in my bookshelf when I was doing my bookshelf tour. This is also one of the first books that I bought from a bookstore along with two other books because for the first time I had the money to do so. So it's a very special book, and though I've not read it since years and it's been on my shelf since years, I did not get rid of it because I knew that I'm going to read it someday. So when I saw it on my bookshelf in the bookshelf tour, I was like, this year is going to be the year for this. I want to start reading this. The reason I did not read it before is because I did start reading it, but this book is about a comedian and he's doing a stand-up comedy show. I have not read any book surrounding stand-up comedy or a comedian as a main character before, and I was not very open to exploring new sorts of like fiction books. Also, this book does not have chapters at all. It just goes on and on and on and on, so you have to decide where you want to stop the book. It's also set in an Israeli town, so some of the words or like sort of like the culture, the places, the people, the jokes, some of them were not relatable for me, and it was a little difficult for me to get into it. However, I was like, I'm just gonna stick with it, I don't care. So I read it very slowly. The comedian, yes, it's very nice and oh ha 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 in the beginning, but as you progress into the book, it becomes utterly dark. It also has a lot of layers. It's like you have to peel the layers, you have to read between the lines to truly understand what is going on with our protagonist, because he travels back to his past and he unpacks a lot of trauma on stage in front of an audience, and the audience does not understand what the hell is going on. They came for a comedy show and what is going on, except for one person in the audience who the comedian invited himself, and all of this makes it such an exciting read, but at the same time it's twisted. It's really twisted. I do think it dives deep into the psychology of a child and how trauma impacts a child. So yeah, do read the trigger warnings, and I think it has been done in a very unusual way. I have never read a book like this, and I loved the experience when I was done with this book. It left me shocked. I mean, Sunday Times has said that this book is a short, shocking masterpiece, and I agree with it. I would not recommend this book to a beginner. It gets really complicated reading it. The words itself are not easy, but if you're an avid reader and you want something that you have never read before, then this is an amazing book. After that heavy dose of darkness and absurdity and everything that I got from that book, I wanted something light and I wanted to read something fast-paced because of how slow that book is and because that book does not have chapters, which is why I started reading Questions I Want to Ask You by Michelle Falcoff. This is the story of Patrick. It's his 18th birthday, and I love books from the perspective of teenagers, so I think this becomes a young adult because he has already turned 18 and he's going about his day, and you see the character of Patrick and he's actually honestly immature. He has a very fixed way of life. He does not want to take a lot of risks, but on his birthday he gets a letter from his mom and he reads it and he is shocked, not because of what his mom said, but because his mom is supposed to be dead. That one letter actually makes him question everything in his entire life. He goes on to not just search for the secrets about his mother, but also questions every single thing in his life. So this basically becomes sort of like a self-discovery discovery, mysterious, thrilling read from the perspective of a young adult. It felt so much like a diary of a teenager. I did feel really dumb reading it in the beginning, especially after reading what I read, but I did want a light read, so I stuck with it. And as I did go into the book, I actually grew to really care about Patrick. So if you want to read something really innocent and cute, it's very easy to read, I read it also really fast, then this is an amazing book. After I read that book, I wanted to read something with beautiful writing, and I recently got this book, On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong, and I was like, let's just pick it up, like who cares. I sort of knew the blurb and the reviews that I watched, it said that the writing style is really beautiful, which is why I picked it up. This one is not a recommendation, you guys, as in I'm not saying I'm not recommending it, I'm just sharing my experience with it because I still don't have my views formed on it. Even in the notebook, like it's an empty space because I'm still thinking about what I feel from this book. But one of the things that I will say is that I am such a huge fan of finding beauty in simplicity, in finding magic in the mundane, and I feel like this book is sort of like finding magic in words, finding magic in the art of writing, and things have been written like really simple things that the author could write very easily, like in different words, but they've been written so beautifully that you read a sentence and then you're staring at the wall because a very simple mundane thing has been said so magically and so beautifully. One of the best books that I've ever read. I will make a video later on where I will recommend this book and I'll tell you who it is meant for, but for now you need to know that it's just a very, very beautiful book, though I would not recommend it to beginners. The next 3 books, and it's 3 books because it's a series, is the Shiva Trilogy. Now I do have a vlog on it, so if you want a very detailed review or a reaction of the series, you can go and check it out. I'll put it in the description. But this, oh my god, this actually influenced me to get so many more series because of the experience that I had with this. I was so not a series person earlier. If you have been watching me, you will know this. I barely read series, but this series was so good. It was so fast paced, it was so thrilling, and it was also so rich in culture, it was so rich in information. It stole my heart. It is basically the story of Shiva, who is living his carefree life. He does have baggage, but he's living his carefree life and he has to take care of his clan, but his clan has been in trouble recently, which is why he is seeking help, and then he gets help from Meluha. So he goes over there, but once he goes over there, it is revealed that he is some sort of a chosen one because he has a Neelkant, he has a blue throat. After that, you just see what being a Neelkant is, why is he the chosen one, what he is the chosen one for, and it is the entire experience and the entire story of that. This is the retelling of the stories of Lord Shiva, God Shiva in the real world, but everyone in this book is a human being. Lord Shiva, or like for example Neelkant, they are positions in this world. They are not different gods or different avatars. If you like reading the history of our culture, and if you want sort of like a scientific explanation for everything that you're reading, even if you're reading mythology, then this is such an amazing read. It is great for beginners if you have never read series before. Just, it's stolen my heart. Oh my god, did I give the stars? Let me just give the stars now. Immortals of Meluha was a 5-star read for me. This also, The Secrets of Nagas, was a 5-star read for me. The Oath of Vayuputras was actually 4 stars because I think it was a little elongated and I got a little bored. This was a definite 5-star read for me. I gave this book 4 stars because it's a little difficult to read, but I did like it's such an experience. I gave this book 3.5 stars just because of the immaturity of it. I am still deciding on the number of stars that I've given this. Like if it was just the writing style, I have given it 5 stars, but don't count that because it may change in the future. Next up, we have the book The Body Myth by Riya Mukherjee. This is a story of 3 people, 1 couple and 1 outsider. Now the outsider is kind of like the protagonist because actually all 3 of them are like main characters, but let's say that Meera is the protagonist. Now she is in a park and she sees this woman having trouble because she's having a seizure. I read this book like a month ago, so I don't really remember, but then she goes to help her, and when she arrives over there, her husband also comes to take care of her, and then they meet each other, and then they start meeting each other even more, and then they become friends, and they become really close friends. But the closer Meera gets to the couple, the more obsessed she's becoming with the couple and their relationship, and she is realizing along with us that the relationship of the couple is not really what it seems on the outside. It is so much more, for the lack of better word, messed up. Read the trigger warnings for this book too. There are a lot of triggers, and this book definitely deals with a lot of sensitive issues. When it comes to the writing style of the book, it has this darkness looming over the entire book. Even if you're reading something positive, even if you're reading something, for example, educational, there is darkness in the writing style itself, and every single chapter, every single paragraph gave me chills. I was actually chilled, not in a good way. No, I mean in a good way, as in the scary chill, you know what I mean, throughout the entire book. I also think that all of the characters are grey in this, and as I said, it deals with a lot of sensitive subject that will sort of make you question, or just, you know, it won't match your opinion, what a relationship can be like, what you can expect from a person. And it's basically a very haunting read, even if it is not about ghosts. Packed with a lot of philosophy and spirituality. It just like really dives deep into all of the characters, so it's more of a character driven book than a story driven book. At the end of the day, I really enjoyed reading it, and it gripped me. Like, I read a few pages and then I was like, I can't keep it down, and I think I finished it in one sitting, which is why I gave this book 4 stars, because honestly there were some things which I don't agree with, and so I did not give it, oh look at that, I did not give it 5 stars. Next up we have Angels and Demons by Dan Brown. I wanted to read something really fast paced, but along with that I also wanted to read something like this. Basically it's like, it has a second hand feel to it. It's so small to hold, and it's withered, and it's just like, oh yeah, like imagine being in a coffee shop and like reading this book, or imagine being in a park and read this book. I basically started it for the feel, but it is such a thrilling book. This is the story of a professor who just gets a call in the middle of the night because a crime has been committed in one of the biggest institutions of the world in Switzerland, and then he is taken over there quickly because they need his opinion on what actually happened over there. But once he reaches over there, he realizes that this entire case, the crime, is so much bigger than what he anticipated it to be, and he informs the people at CERN, the big institution, and then they have to take care of really big issues like terrorism. And the best thing is that they're time bound. They have to take care of things within a certain amount of time, which makes this book very thrilling. Also, you're always like literally on your toes. Is it called on your toes? On your feet or on your toes, because it's a race against time. I did not get bored even for one page in this book, even for one chapter of this book, and it's impossible for you to stop reading this book. It did take me a few days to finish this book, but that was only because I didn't have time. Okay, I didn't have time to read. If I had the time to read, I would be gobbling it up. Very fast paced. It's very thrilling, and it's very easy to read. It is very rich in Rome, Vatican, like Catholic culture, so if you like that, really good for you. If you don't, then that is going to be a problem. You must give it a shot. It's great for beginners, even though it's thick, and I actually really enjoyed it. I gave this book 5 stars because I didn't find any flaw in it. Last but not the least, in January we have Shaolin. This book is actually based on the skill of Kung Fu. Even though Kung Fu or Kung Fu is actually a physical act, you read this book and you realize that you need Shaolin, which is like mental strength, in order to win physically. I read a few chapters every morning because I want to become a calmer person this year. I want to realize the importance of my mental strength and the importance of being slow and at peace in order to do things and focus, and so I started with this book. Honestly, there were a few chapters that did not serve me at all, but that's because I have already read other books that dive deeper into that subject, but there were some chapters that hit home for me. So if you have never read anything about inner strength, about taking care of your mental health, about being slow, about being calm, about what your mindset can do, then this book will be amazing. You don't have to read all of the chapters. You can read like a couple chapters here and there. I gave this book 3 stars. And now with that, we are done with January. Now let's start with February. When it comes to the mood of reading in February, I was actually a little overwhelmed. I feel like I had a very strict schedule of what I'm supposed to read in the month, and I had a TBR, but that again did not work for me at all. Too much pressure on my head. It's like, if I know that a book is on my TBR for the month, then I won't read it. It's like my mind tells me that, oh, it's on the TBR, let's defy it and read something completely different. So I did make a TBR and did not follow along with it. I read some completely different books, but the books were amazing. Let's start with the book which I'm still reading, will continue to read, because there's not a lot that I can say about it. I've already talked about it a lot before also. That came out like really fast. And the book is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Carnegie, I don't know how to pronounce it. I have read this book multiple times before and I'm rereading it, but the difference is that I have read this book for reading and for recommending, and I did apply some of these things in my life, but I've not really studied the book. This time I have taken my notebook and I'm actually studying it for half an hour, 20 minutes every other day, so like 1-2 chapter every other day, and I'm practically implying it in my life. So that's what is going on with this. And when it comes to the stars, it's a 5-star, because even if you don't want to get into the field, like basic communication that you need in your day-to-day life, if you want to be a good communicator, if you want to influence people and win friends, then this is a must read. You cannot skip it. The other book that I read throughout the month, not actually throughout the month because I got it really late, but I did not read it at once because it's a collection of short stories, is Cursed Bunny by Bora Chung. I got this book from the publishers and I read the description of the book and it just felt like me. Okay, so I got it. This is a collection of short stories and you cannot define, it's a genre defying collection, but it is like sci-fi, horror, magical realism all mixed up. And I started reading like one short story in between other books, but oh my god, this has become one of my most favorite books ever. I am such a huge fan, I mean you people know it, of reading chilling things, of reading twisted things, of reading things that can never be real, of reading things that make absolutely no sense. They're gruesome, they're gross. I mean, I hate all of that in my real life. Like if it happens in my life, I don't know what I'll do. I don't know how to deal with it. But if it's happening in a book, I am there for it. And I feel like this book was written for a person like me. Except that yes, it does not make sense because of the magical realism, because of the, why am I saying realism? Because of the magical realism, because of the horror. But this book, if you read between the lines or if you read it very carefully, is also sort of like a commentary on our society. It reflects upon certain institutions of the society, like patriarchy, like capitalism, and that gives so much meaning to each short story that I did not know you can talk about these things like this, and it completely shocked me. I was startled, I enjoyed myself, and I also feel like I learned a lot. Now obviously there were a few stories which were better than other stories and they were my favorites, but overall I feel so lucky to have read this book and to have discovered it. And you have to read it if you're anything like me. I have rated it 5 stars. I wish I could rate it like higher than that. Those 2 books were ongoing. The first, wait, the lighting is good, right? Yeah. The first fiction book that I read in the month was Secretly Yours by Tessa Bailey. I got this book from Harper, which is the publisher of the book, and it was my first Tessa Bailey book. When I put a story of it on Instagram, so many people messaged me saying, oh my god, you're reading Tessa Bailey, that is so cool. And that is like, oh my god, I can't wait to see a reaction and all of those things, because apparently a lot of people love Tessa Bailey, but I have just entered the world of rom-com or romantic books like these especially. And Tessa Bailey actually is known for her raunchy, spicy, R-rated books, and I have not read books like that. So this one was definitely a new experience for me. It was a very fast read. I thought that I'll read 100 pages and go to bed, but I ended up finishing the book overnight. This is the story of Hallie or Haley and Julian. There's a lot of Jules, Julian, Julie in this file in Feb. Julian is the grumpy. He wants everything set in his life, and Hallie is the sunshine. So it's sunshine x grumpy, and it's also set in a small town. So now Haley or Hallie is actually trying to save a wine shop because it is attached to her memory of her grandmother. Julian has come back to the town to write a book, and he has taken a sabbatical from work as a professor. Thing is that Hallie and Julian have already met when they were like 14, and they're meeting after 14-15 years again. At that time they were almost about to kiss, but they did not because of some reasons, and since then Hallie has a crush on him, but Julian does not even remember her. Now obviously because it's a small town, they do cross paths, and then you see what happens with them. I loved the character of Julian. I just love it when it's like men, because I like men. They are the characters who are like strict and they need a plan and they need a schedule and a checklist because it attracts me. So I really like Julian. Hallie on the other hand was a little annoying, honestly speaking, and there were a lot of spicy scenes, so do not read it if you're a teenager. It is an adult book, and I did skip some of it. There were also a few things which were uncalled for, which I just don't understand why it was there. Overall, it was a very exciting experience. I enjoyed myself thoroughly, and there were just always like constant butterflies in my stomach and bubbles in my heart, because like what's gonna happen? It's really cute, it's very emotional, and it's very heartwarming. If you just remember that it's an unrealistic book and you don't apply it in your real life, then this is actually an amazing read. Next up, we have Paper Towns by John Green. This turned out to be one of the first meaningful reads of February, and I was like really happy. I actually read it from a pirated copy, but I loved it so much that I got the hardcover. This is the story of Quentin, Q, and Margot, who spend a night taking revenge from people, not in a deadly way or something, but in a very like fun, cute, teenagey way. And Quentin has actually had a crush on Margot since a long time. Margot is this alluring character, like she's really mysterious and she has like this aura and everything, and Quentin is very attracted to it. I think that's something that John Green does a lot in most of his books. One of the characters will be like this mysterious character with some sort of aura that attracts the other character. So then Quentin thinks that now that they have spent time together, next day onwards they're going to be best friends and will probably turn into something more. But next day Margot is gone, and suddenly Quentin questions everything. Who is the real Margot? Like, did she even ever want to be his friend? And they were also best friends when they were children, like when they were 9 years old. It kind of gave me Looking for Alaska vibes from the blurb of it, which is why I actually did not want to read it, because I'm not a big fan of Looking for Alaska. But John Green has written it, and I love Turtles All the Way Down. And it's like I either hate a John Green book or I love a John Green book, and this is one of the books that I love. It is filled with philosophies, with metaphors. Paper Towns itself is a metaphor, just like Turtles All the Way Down was a metaphor. The writing style is beautiful. Now that is the best thing about John Green, that he writes very like complicated philosophies using metaphors in a very simple manner, and I love that. It's very easy to read. You can read it as a beginner. Do read the trigger warnings before you start the book. If you want to read sort of like a self-discovery journey along with finding love in a very mysterious, thrilling way, then this will be a perfect book. The kind of love in this book is the kind of love I support. Oh, did I say I rated this 5 stars? And I rated this book 3.5 or 4 stars. The next book, there are so many books, is You've Reached Sam by Dustin Thau. Now this book was actually supposed to be really exciting, but I was underwhelmed. So much talking at once is not good for my throat. Okay, this is the story of Julie, who's 17 years old. She loses Sam. Sam dies and she's not able to cope up with it, so she calls Sam just to hear his voice in the voicemail message. But the crazy thing is that Sam picks up the phone. How is that possible when he is dead? Now the blurb, like this description, actually got me really excited, and I do think that even from what I did read, it could have been so much more if it was written in a more not descriptive, but like a deeper way. If you went deeper into the characters, psychology of the characters, the emotions, not psychology, like I don't care about psychology, the emotions of the character, it could be so much more. Because when I did read parts of Sam, I was really emotional. Like some of the parts of this, they were really emotional, and the characters, they could have been so good. It's just that none of it is rich enough for me. Like the characters not rich enough for me even though they are rich. The story not rich enough for me even though it's rich. The connection, it's not rich enough for me. It was just not enough for me. I was expecting more. So I don't know if it is my fault or the book's fault. What if I put too many expectations on the book and then it's my fault? That who told you to put too many expectations on the book? So I don't know whose fault it is, but it was a 3-star read for me. If you want to read a book where you see how people deal with loss, grief, letting go, then this is a good book. I mean, I said what I said. Now you have to make your own judgment. The next book is Beach Read by Emily Henry. I was so excited about this book. This is a story of January and Gus. Both of them are writers. January is a believer in happy endings and love story. I mean, I think January would love Secretly Yours, and Gus is more of a literary fiction writer. So for example, he would love, which of these books? He would love A Horse Walks Into the Bar. He would love The Body Men. He would love he would be a sucker for On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. Now you can see that they're like really opposite to each other. So this is the story of opposites attract, but they do have a lot of things in common too, and they meet because they're neighbors when both of them are on a vacation. However, they're broke, they don't have money, and they have to come up with a book because they have already signed and committed that they're going to give a book, but they're dealing with a lot of things in their own life, which I'm not going to tell you what those things are. I mean, I think I can tell you about January. January just recently lost her father and she's dealing with the loss. Gus is a very mysterious character in the book, so I'm not going to tell you what's up with him because that will actually spoil it, and you get to see what they do together, how they influence each other, what the friendship becomes. I went into the book expecting something like Book Lovers, which by the way is completely my fault, because Book Lovers, the book itself says Book Lovers, which is why I understand that that book was all about the things that you would love as a book lover. This book is more about writers. When you read this book, you get into the head of a writer, how they see things, how they process things. So I got disappointed a little bit, uselessly. But if I don't compare both of them, I really did enjoy the book so much. I was so happy with the characters and the depth that they had. I also really enjoyed the waves of darkness that would come into the book, like here and there. So you were not only into one emotion, you were going through waves of various emotions when you're reading this book. You were nahi, I was. And it's also really focused on the relationship of Gus and January, which I love. Their conversations, how they talk to each other, their fights, it's just so fun. It's so fun to read all of those things. So yeah, I really did enjoy the book. I gave it 5 stars even if I was disappointed, because I realized that it's my fault if I'm comparing them. Stop comparing both books. The next book I read after that, because I wanted to read something thrilling, is Rock Paper Scissors by Alice Feeney. Now this, you guys, after a long time, I have got a thriller book, a mystery book, which is going to be one of my favorites, and I'm going to recommend it 1 million times. This is the story of a husband and a wife, Amelia and Adam, who are spending a weekend away in order to fix their marriage. But things take a dark turn once they're there. That is all I can say. They have been together for so long, for like 10 years, and there are 10 years of marriage, 10 years of secrets, and an anniversary, which is the weekend away, that they will never forget. I just love this book so much. It is like 300 pages. I should have finished it in 5 hours because that's sort of like my reading speed, 5.5 hours or 6 hours. I finished it in 3 hours because of how easy it was to read, how thrilling it was. It was unpredictable, and it really messed up my head while reading it. Like I was so agitated, but like the good agitated, and the ending really made it worth it. This is sort of like the best time I have ever spent on something that did not make sense to me because of how much the ending made sense to me. It is a 5-star read. It's actually like a 12,000 star read, so you have to read it. I don't care. Like even if you're a beginner and you've never read mystery thrillers before and you feel like, oh, I just want to start, then this is such a good book. If you want to get out of a slump, this is such a good book. If you want a good thriller, and if you liked, for example, Behind Her Eyes, this is a good book. If you liked Into the Water by Paula Hawkins, this is a good book. I can give you 10,000 reasons as to why you have to read this book, so just read it. The next book also, oh my god, I know I said February was not a good month for me and I was like blah overwhelmed, but I've read such good books in February. The next book is also a 5-star read for me, and the book is Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellers. I had huge ass expectations from this book. Like I wanted this book to just I don't know, just make me feel like I'm on cloud 9 and make me realize why I love reading so much, and that is precisely what this book did. It is the story of Cleopatra and Frankenstein. They meet at a party and they hit it off, and 6 months later they're married. First chapter is one of the most beautiful things that I have ever read in my entire life. The cool thing, however, is that going forward, you don't just read about the relationship and what happens with them from their perspective, but also from the perspective of their friends and their family, because their relationship actually creates sort of like a ripple effect on everybody's life, like their friends' life, their family's life. All of the characters in this book, all of them are heavily flawed, all are heavily grey, and being an admirer of grey characters, I loved that, though I did not like some characters in the beginning, but the ending had me. The ending is what made this book worth it. I did not get bored even in one chapter, simply because it's from various perspectives, so it's almost like you're reading the book from the beginning itself with each chapter, so you don't get bored at all. But this book is more about the writing style. It dives deep into the psychology and emotions of the characters, which I love so much, and this book does it so well. The writing is delicious. It's delicious. I love it so much. And what I have written for this book is a delicious reading experience that reminds you that reading is a blessing. It actually reminds me of a cupcake from the cover also, because of the blue and the pink and the white, and also because of the writing style, because of how delicious it is and how you can just gobble it up because you can't stop. It's about love. It's about connection. It's about friendship. It's about what you do and how it affects other people, and it's about getting a happy ending that may not be happy for you but is actually happy, if that makes any sense. Oh, this book, read this book. I do want to recommend it to beginners of like literary fiction. If you like normal people and you're okay with that, though I think normal people was difficult to read, this is actually easier to read than that for me. But if you're a complete beginner in the reading world, then I won't recommend it. Last but so not the least, I wanted to finish off the month with a bang, and I read the book The Maid by Nita Rose. This is the story of Molly the maid, who is going about her life, and she loves her job, and she loves cleaning, and she loves clean things. I'm just realizing, oh my god, this book is so good. So she's just going about her day, but she has recently lost her grandmother and she is dealing with the loss. All she wants is to be busy with work. She doesn't really have to think about it, and she doesn't even want to go back home because that's where she lived with her grandmother. But she's at work, she finds a dead body in one of the rooms that she has to clean, the dead body of Mr. Black. She's so used to being invisible and she wants to be invisible, especially now, but she's put into the spotlight because she's the one who found him. This book is a mystery thriller, but it did not give me chills at all, like even 1%, and I'm actually really happy about it. It did not give me chills, but it gave me something else which was so much richer as an experience when you're reading a mystery thriller, because you dive deeper into the character of the maid, like her as a maid and her life experience as a maid and her life experience as Molly. This is one of the most heartwarming thrillers that I have ever read in my entire life. So this was actually an amazing read. It is great for beginners. If you want a cozy mystery thriller that is deeper than a fast-paced story, then this is your book. And with that, this is the end of the video, you guys. It has been 1 hour since I have been shooting, so I really hope you got at least one recommendation out of it. I will see you guys again very soon in another wrap up next month. Stay tuned for the vlogs and the haul, and that's it. Bye.